Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream on the Polkadot X account. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Richard from Xcavate, as well as Pacman, who does the marketing for them. A familiar face in the Polkadot ecosystem. Many of you know Pacman already. And Xcavate is building a decentralized digital infrastructure for global real estate. Richard, you have a bit of history in the Polkadot ecosystem. You've been organizing meetups in London. You've been a Polkadot advocate for a long time. You've also worked as an educator in universities. But I was hoping we could just kick off by you telling me, how did you get involved in Web3 and blockchain in the first place?
Sure, Evan. Hi, everyone. My journey sort of started quite a while ago. So I was in mechanical engineering originally, and I worked for Coca-Cola for 10 years. And then I cut my teeth in software development at Coca-Cola, left there, started a few businesses, one of which was a Web 2 development business. One of my Web 2 clients was waxing lyrical about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few others. And I never really got the idea of this digital money, but I love the concept of the technology. So I sort of went down that rabbit hole, sort of pursued that for a number of years from a distance. And then, about 2019, started playing around with the idea of Polkadot because Ethereum led me to Dr. Gavin Wood. And then, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Okay. And so you were a developer at Coca-Cola. 2019, prior to that, you had heard about Bitcoin and Ethereum and a few others. And then 2019 is when you kind of decided to focus on it. So you were actually part of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. We've had Pauline on the show a couple times. She's told us all about it, but maybe you could just tell the audience how you got involved with that, what initially drew you to it, what did you learn? And I know Xcavate was already sort of in the works before you did PBA, but just tell us about that whole process of PBA.
So it really started when I went to a Polkadot meetup, myself and my co-founder Alex, in London. That was, I think, 2001 maybe. And there was like 5 people there. It was, quite an empty room, but it was like a buzz. I just felt that there was a connection with people. And I've always believed in Polkadot and what it can achieve. And then I got chatting with a guy called Tim Doby. Tim, probably people know him as being the director of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. He just kept in touch and said there was an opportunity. The Polkadot Blockchain Academy was actually starting a new founders track. Would I like to apply? So I did that, was interviewed, and then was lucky enough to be accepted to Berkeley, US, back in 2023.
Amazing. And we don't have to, we've, as I mentioned, we've talked about PBA on the show a few times, but could you just give us maybe a 30-second summary of what that whole system looked like and what did you take away from it?
So it was an amazing, probably one of the best experiences of my life. And because my wife's not here, I can say that. But basically it was an immersion into the world of Web3, but not just like a rule about Polkadot. It gave you the journey for, in terms of who built Polkadot, not just Gavin. There's a massive team behind, sort of the research team. They're looking at all different things like sort of tokenomics, game theory, and then you do a deep dive into Polkadot SDK, which is Substrate. But for me, it was fun. It was, the team behind Polkadot Blockchain Academy made everything so much fun. It was hard work, but you're working 12, 16-hour days, but it doesn't feel like it. It goes in an instant. And then the connections I made there really helped my project to deliver on the aspirations. So it helped formulate the idea when I was there, and then it's helped me deliver because we've got advisors on our team now that were connections at the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. Half of my team is Polkadot Blockchain Academy alumni. So it's an amazing concept.
That's amazing. So it was really it was really beneficial to Xcavate when you were hoping to achieve by attending that program. So Xcavate actually was an idea you had prior to doing PPA. Could you just tell us what it is that you're hoping to achieve with this project, and what gave you the initial idea to pursue it?
It's a few different things. As you know, I think you get an idea from your experience in life. And one of my experiences was my sister. She got made homeless with her two nieces. One of my nieces was in film school at the time. She filmed the whole experience and won a junior BAFTA for that film. So that was always in the back of my mind, that how can someone hardworking just fall into being homeless? So that was a sort of a kernel of thought in the back of my mind. And then when I heard about Web3 and blockchain and sort of democratizing what's going on in the world, the two sort of mixed together. And I think there's a really big problem with the way in which wealth distribution in the world works, in terms of people buy assets, they then generate income, and then they buy more assets. And this sort of wealth divide gets bigger and bigger. So there needs to be a change, a systematic change. And one of the biggest, asset classes in the world is real estate. So I think that's a really good start for me.
If not the biggest asset class, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like maybe $400 trillion, probably.
Wow. Okay.
That was back in 2022.
Yeah.
So
I've always thought about it the same way as well. There's sort of there's a divide. You have like the land owning lords and the sort of the rent paying, like serfs, as it were. So yeah, it is definitely a huge inequalities and so on in real estate. So it's so refreshing to hear that Xcavate is looking to tackle that. How does Xcavate differ from some of the other RWA projects out there, real world asset projects?
There's a lot of real world asset projects out there, and there's quite a few real estate ones. I think what we're trying to achieve is, as I've mentioned, in terms of the sort of digital infrastructure of real estate, there's no global standard, which is a big problem. So a lot of projects are just tokenizing a fund, or they're tokenizing individual properties. But what we're looking to do is create this digital sort of best practice or infrastructure in terms of how the information regarding any asset, be it land, be it something built on the land, can be brought on chain. And then there's a way of independently verifying that data and the various people involved throughout that life cycle in a way that democratizes the investment process and also reduces time and money to build things. Because at the end of the day, if a developer gets a project underway more quickly, and they sell the product at the end result, whether it's a 9-bed apartment or a school, at the end of the day, then they can move on to the next project. So it's about sort of making that process as efficient as possible.
Got it. I know that you've come with a few slides. I was going to pull up the website and just kind of scroll through it while we're speaking, but if feel free to queue up the slides whenever you'd like. I would like to jump over to Pac-Man just to kind of mix things up a bit. We'll come back to you in a second, Richard, but can you just tell me how you got involved in the project and what it was that attracted you to it?
Yeah, I think me and Richard, we got talking last year when we were talking about growing the project. I really liked. I think we did a Twitter space together, and I got to know Xcavate, what they're doing, and I quite like the way they have this whole infrastructure, especially building on Polkadot. Because a lot of people, for example, last year, regulations we've seen in America, for example, SEC was basically on top of all these projects, and a lot of good projects basically kind of lost their community, lost interest from community because of the regulations. And Xcavate, I think, is already one step ahead. For those who don't know, FCA is like Financial Conduct Authority, kind of similar version of SEC, but in the UK. So Xcavate is regulated, but I'm quite bullish on the project. Like the way it's growing, and the way it's already one step ahead, thinking of regulations, thinking of laws, thinking of like be very compliant when it comes to keeping things all under control. So yeah, me and Richard started talking, and I think it was a good understanding between ourselves that we kind of shared the vision of where we want to be, have the project in the next coming months and years. And so yeah, I've been just helping with marketing, with community ambassador programs, and all kind of community related things.
Got it. And you mentioned community. I mean, how important is community to Xcavate? And are you sort of like taking community feedback to improve on the product?
Oh yes, I think community is very important. We're a very community-driven project as well. I think for any project, to be honest, without community, I think it's a big struggle to grow. And community feedback is very important. I mean, if you are going to develop and if you are going to make changes, that will be based on community's feedback. So, for example, recently we launched a game on Xcavate. It was a quite cool game that you have to like. There are properties in London. You have to guess what the price of the property could be. If you guess it right, you win some prizes. We had some. You win an NFT and stuff as well. Community was struggling a little bit, so we kind of took the community's feedback and we kind of restructured it, and we launched it very recently, and it was great. And community liked it as well, that we were taking all the feedback on board and making them feel like part of the family, part of the project, not just like people that they're just like enthusiastic about it. So they feel like they're involved in the growth of the project.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think if you take anyone that doesn't live in London and put a 50-meter flat in front of them and ask them the price, they're going to be shocked how expensive it is.
I can relate to that, because when I first started playing that game, I live in Scotland. So like for example, just to keep things brief, for a price of a flat in London, you can buy a mansion in Scotland. When I started playing that game, and I was like, well, there's no way. I mean, there must be something wrong with the game, because I'm not getting any prices right. But then it turns out that London just seems to be very, very expensive.
Just absolutely mind-blowing. So, Richard, could you tell us how this tokenization process works, and how exactly does that, enhance the accessibility of the real estate market for people?
Shall I show you a few slides?
Yes, please do.
Through 1 second.
Yep.
Okay.
We can see your screen, so go ahead.
Oh, cool. Okay, so let me just. Sorry, I need to minimize that. So at the moment, I mean, I'm talking about the UK, but really we've looked at lots of different areas globally, and lots of different types of systems have lots of commonality, like, land acquisition or land registry, the planning process, construction, property sales, and the operation or management. A lot of these things can happen in tandem, but very rarely do. And in the UK, especially, land registry can take 18 months, 2 years to be processed, which is crazy, in this digital age. So we're looking to create like a real-time land registry and property planning system out of the box that any country can use. So we're working with a few governments at the moment on that idea, and we're working with the University of East London. They're doing a big piece on research to understand how the landscape works, what the difference is in a regional sense, and then what it looks like from an international point of view. But going back to your point, lots of these problems are because they rely on trusted entities. So you've got banks, you've got agencies, you've got fund managers. They all have different systems. They're all a lot of them are inefficient. They don't talk to each other. There's misaligned incentives. So you've got local authorities. It's actually in their interest to back a planning application, because they get more money for the constant amount of times that someone would go back with a new application or a revised application, which is crazy. And then you've got, if someone's selling a property, they're obviously out for the best price. A buyer is out for the best price. So if we can align those incentives, then everyone's happy. Right. There's huge complexity and fragmentation in the system, and it's very, very limiting. It's quite exclusive. There aren't opportunities for the average person to get involved with like an early stage construction of a real estate project. So we're trying to resolve that. So what we're doing is sort of minimizing the friction, creating verification by secure data, making it very efficient with the system. There's like an underlying protocol level data layer, and then everything else like an application layer is built on top. We align incentives using tokenomics and game theory. It's very simple and easy to use, and we're trying to make the barrier to entry as low as possible. The great thing is that we've built a modular framework using Polkadot SDK. So it means that we can add all of these custom palettes, this custom code, to then focus on different areas of that life cycle. and then giving you an example of a particular property. We actually create like a DAO structure within the legal framework of it's not a company, it's a partnership, but each token holder becomes a partner in this individual property, and they all have voting rights to sort of run the day-to-day aspects of a property. Sorry, I know it's a short slideshow, but I just wanted to try and get across.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, and so this is a massive undertaking to take on the global real estate industry. Surely something this big of a challenge you've been presented with some roadblocks. I mean, can you discuss some of the challenges you faced and how you've overcome them, and any tips for aspiring entrepreneurs or builders out there?
I'll start with the tips first. So the only way of doing it is doing it in iterative small steps. So what you can start with these grand visions, but at the end of the day, you need to do the most important things. Just do them, one step at a time. And the great thing was, when I went back to the PBA, that gave me the toolkit and the sort of network to be able to reach out to the right people and sort of get these steps in motion. Having someone like Alex, my co-founder, who's got 23 years experience within the real estate industry, was fundamental. But going back to the sort of blockers, the regulators in the UK and elsewhere, because that whole it wasn't fully defined. So you're having conversations about stuff and not being able to plan too far ahead. So that was a real blocker. And ironically, we hadn't sort of fully fleshed out the MVP when we were talking to the FCA, the SEC in the UK. And so we applied for something called Innovative Pathways, which was like a way of liaising with them and asking questions. And they batted it back, saying we weren't innovative enough, because they've got this independent panel of people they approach and say, oh, this is a project. But the independent panel don't understand the technology because it's moving so fast. So that was a big blocker as well. But you just got to tackle these things one step at a time and just move forward.
If the best way to eat a big sandwich is one bite at a time, as they say in the US, at least.
Absolutely.
And so, you're building a parachain, or essentially a roll-up or an L1, whatever you want to call it, that plugs into the Polkadot relay chain. What are some of the benefits of building on Polkadot, and why did you choose Polkadot?
The shared security was a big one. So we can focus on our particular projects rather than have to worry about, how that security works and how we get that sort of baked into our project. We also wanted something interoperable. So the idea of we leverage a lot of other chains. We've got friends called Accurast. So Accurast offer like a mobile compute network, a decentralized mobile compute. We use that. We leverage that for oracles, so we can call upon APIs with Companies House, which is a UK organization that creates companies. So we use that to create a company for a particular property. We also do checks on real estate values. We use the Accurast system for that. And then we use storage like Crust. So Crust is an IPFS, a decentralized IPFS system. And then we use decentralized identity, so the Kilt network. So we're really trying to leverage all aspects of the Polkadot ecosystem, and we'll branch out and we'll use other ecosystem partners as we go. But we just want to get off the ground, get to market within the next 3 months, and then we'll take over the world.
Got it. Okay, let's go back to you, Pacman, for a bit, and tell us how people can get involved with the project. What's your Twitter handle? Is there a Discord server people can join? Meetups, newsletter? Just tell us how people can stay up to date.
Yeah, I think to start with, because we're based starting in London, Polkadot actually has quite a big community in London. So for anybody that actually wants to meet the team and wants to get involved, we host very regular events in London, with especially like you had mentioned earlier, Richard's doing University of London. They're working together to educate people into blockchain. So we're always there. Like for example, next Tuesday, Richard's hosting a Polkadot meetup event where he will be not only presenting Xcavate, but there's other teams and projects coming. So it's always good to have, you can follow us on Twitter. It's like Xcavate Official. That's the page. We're always announcing events and things that we're doing for Xcavate and for Polkadot community as well. People who can't physically attend London, we're always available online as well. You can follow our page, and on Xcavate.io is our website. You can see the links to Discord and Telegram. We have a very active community where we're always talking about not just the projects, but like I said, I always want to have that kind of a friendly family vibe in a community, which we do have. So if anybody that physically cannot attend, you're more than welcome to join our communities and get involved and have a chat with the team, ask any questions, and simply if you're just curious and have any questions about the protocol, that's the best way to get in touch and get involved.
Are there any sort of reoccurring questions or misconceptions you see people come and ask, or they're wondering about when it comes to real world assets on chain, or real estate tokenization, or what's sort of like some of the things you feel you see yourself explaining over and over again to people?
I think one of the most common misconceptions, and that's not just Web3 community overall, as soon as you mention property, as soon as you mention real estate, people automatically think it's something for rich people, or something like for people who has who like a kind of a better financial situation. And all the time people are wondering well, how can I get involved? Real estate, especially in London, they're worth millions, and how can I get involved with my 2,000, 3,000 or whatever? So this is exactly what Xcavate is doing. So by fractionalizing property, and we explain this all the time, so you don't have to buy the whole 100% of the ownership. You can have 1% share in that property, and that still makes you the owner of that property because you own a fraction of it, and you don't need millions to get involved. And that's one of the most common misconceptions. So the whole kind of our slogan is we're making real estate accessible and affordable. Accessible, as Richard explained earlier, there's a lot of hurdles. For example, I live in the UK myself. If for example, if you need to go buy a house on mortgage, for instance, you have to have home reports, you have to go through solicitors, you have to go through banks, credit. There's a lot of things that is basically for a new person who doesn't know, it's a lot of process. So by accessible, we kind of bypass all of that, make it very simple. You still have to go through these processes, but it's a lot simple using blockchain. And
Right.
And the best part is, like Richard explained, it's not just for people in UK. Anybody in the world can buy property in London, which is amazing. So it's very accessible. And yeah, so that's basically we kind of end up explaining every other time, and in the Telegram chats and on Twitter as well.
Got it. I saw that in your chart there, Richard, that there was, you were sort of plugged into Kilt protocol, which does decentralized identity. You mentioned Accurast as well. There's obviously a big network and benefit to working in the Polkadot ecosystem as you get to collaborate with all these other projects. Pacman, where do you see the role of partnerships playing into Xcavate and its success?
Yeah, I think we're in a very best kind of home, I would say. Like the ecosystem is like the home of like all these parachains and all these roll-up chains now. Partnerships play a very important role, for us to grow and for other projects to grow. We do have a little bit of complexity because, like I said earlier about the regulations. So we have to make sure that, the projects that we are going into a partnership with also kind of comply with the regulations, because we don't want to get trouble with the law, for instance, so. But having said that, we already have partnerships, and we're always open to exploring new partnerships and see like how we can not only grow ourselves but like help other projects grow through Xcavate technology.
Got it. Coming back to you now, Richard. I mean, so you got into Web3. You sort of had this idea in 2019, 2020. You got into PBA. Where exactly along the timeline now are we with Xcavate, and what are some future milestones that we can look forward to?
So we are very, very close to launching under the FCA sandbox, and the FCA sandbox is a regulatory way of you being in a live environment. So with real properties, real investors, real money changing hands, but in a controlled environment in the respect that you can communicate and they can communicate with you, and you can demonstrate risk controls, because that's all they're worried about. So we're about three or 4 months away from that. And then that period will happen for about 6 months. and then we'll whilst all that's going on, we'll apply for the full permissions. And then I had a chat with Dubai Sandbox the other day as well. They're very interested in us looking at that as being one of the regions that we go into. And then whilst we're doing all that, we're talking with governments about how we can instigate this land registry and planning process for governments. So it's a very busy time, and then it's going to be a question of going into different regions and just rinse and repeat. And then we're going to look at some commercial properties. So imagine owning a percentage of a hotel room, and you can either take a holiday or you can take an income, or it could be a university dorm. So you could buy that for your child that's going to university, so you don't have to worry about university, the costs of living somewhere. There's lots of different ways we can look at that.
Yeah, I was going to ask her, where do you, just thinking years ahead, like what are some other use cases? How could this be applied? But you sort of answered it there. Any other sort of big ideas, that?
Well, I mean, for me, I'd love the idea of a community somewhere saying we need a school or we need a hospital, and they don't need any government to give them money. They just come together in a collective and then get it done. That would be amazing. So if we can get all the tooling that someone would need, very easy out of the box, and all they need to worry about is just organization and evidence, whatever they're doing, and have the right credentials, then they can get that underway.
Interesting. So like a decentralized REIT or, like a syndicate or something. That's super interesting. I kind of wanted to leave it open-ended here at the end. I mean, was there any other messages that you wanted to get out or things that people should know about Xcavate?
The other thing that we're doing is we got a Polkadot Treasury proposal approved at the end of last year, and we've been working on something called Asset Didcom. We are sort of working on that at the moment with the Kilt protocol. They're helping us with a couple of modules. But what we're looking to do is demonstrate that through a way of BD in the Polkadot community is a bit of a challenge. So the idea might be that you, as a BD a person operating in the Polkadot ecosystem, you mint your BD opportunity, and then you integrate with various different parties. You have meetings, you review documents, etc., and all of that is captured on chain and then reviewed by curators, and then reward would be at the end. So having that mechanism, I think, would streamline what goes on in the Polkadot ecosystem, as well as other people within the Polkadot ecosystem being able to use all that tooling.
Amazing. So for people that want to follow along the journey, they want to get involved, Pacman, where can, you mentioned it before, but where can people, how can they get involved in this community?
I think the best place to start would be our website, because there's a lot of scam and spam links out there. So just to make sure for authenticity, the website is Xcavate.io, and that has all the links that you would need for Twitter, for Telegram. But actually, I want to request the ambassadors, like the fellowship as well, because as Evan, you might know, I was helping out with the fellowship ambassadors, and I'm a rank 2 ambassador myself. So I know like a lot of Polkadot ambassadors from fellowship want to get involved and support the Polkadot projects. So if anybody that's watching and wants to get involved, especially in London, UK, like I said, we potentially will need people to help out with the events and attend the events, and so it'll be a good place to start. Go on the website, follow the Telegram community, the Twitter page, and join the Telegram community. And we'll just show us, like, let us know how you want to get involved, and we'll be happy to take you on board.
Amazing. So head over to the website, Xcavate.io, follow their Twitter. Anything else before we kind of wrap things up, guys?
We are just about to launch a crowdfunding exercise on Polymech. So things will be announced soon, but yeah, just be aware of that. So again, it's leveraging the fantastic Polkadot ecosystem, and that will mean that we would build our community, but they are actually invested in Xcavate and would eventually get the Xcavate token when we do our TGE.
Okay, great. A collab with another Polkadot parachain, Polymech. So very exciting stuff. Well, thanks very much, guys. And we'll follow along with the journey, and best of luck. And we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, Evan.
So take care, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.